Welcome to a live stream of Stranded Deep. So if you don't know about this game, it's one of those Rust-likes that just sort of took over Steam in the last couple years. Except this one is actually good. It's a little bare bones, it's still in early access, and they're constantly updating and changing it. Not the things that need changing and improving, but they are updating and changing it at least. I have played a little bit of it, as I noticed in the bottom right corner, but we're going to start with the new game. I've done pretty much anything. We're going to use the existing world, because I know where things are. That way we don't waste too much time. But the idea of the game is we are a castaway, and in order for that to happen, we need to crash our plane. You probably noticed, though, our clothes were already damaged, which is pretty funny. So this is a tutorial to get us used to swimming. Pretty intense, but pretty simple. It feels like that intro's volume is independent of the rest of the game, because it's so loud. But then we wake up on a raft, standing up, and then we crouch and now we can paddle. There's not a meter for the breath. What happens is the screen, there's a circle, it slowly turns red to signify that you're drowning. But here's our starting island. Now, if you look out on the ocean, you'll notice we can't see crap. I feel like this is a newer edition. The most that I know about this game, I watched Sips from Yogg's Cast play through it. He got to a point where we're probably going to get to before we stop, which is we got a motorboat, or he got a motorboat. And that's what we're going to do. And then we're probably going to explore a bit more, but after that point, there's not much more to do. The game still has a lot left before I think they get it out of the beta stage. But you can grab and drag objects. You can press E to pick them up and put them in our inventory. We have like 8, maybe 9 slots. The empty hands counts as a slot, so sometimes we might need to switch them out. The inventory is a little funky to try to figure out, especially if you're carrying a tool and you run out of inventory space. You can't actually switch to a holdable object like this rock. It's really weird. But when you land on an island, first thing you want to do is run around and grab as many objects as you can. You want as many rocks, sticks, and other esoterica like a bucket. We're going to need plenty of buckets. Buckets are quite useful. We use them both for crafting and for carrying fresh water. And rocks we use to create most of our tools. You're also going to find tarps. We use those for construction. The most use I got out of them, we can use them to create water plants. Like, you'll see it in a bit, but there are different ways to get fresh water out on the sea. The ocean is not one of them. Do not drink the salt water. You end up barfing. It's not a good thing. There's some driftwood here. There are different types of construction materials. The wooden stick counts just as regular wood. Driftwood, I think, is supposed to be worse. But, I don't know, some things are made with it, and it doesn't feel like there's any downside to some of the construction materials you use, or even an upside. It's just what you end up with. Use it as you need to. Now, this is kind of a bumpy island. No real good place to drop anything. So I'm just going to make a little pile here on the flat terrain. If you're lucky, we can actually stack some rocks. Not quite. There's no sense in holding on to some of this crap in your inventory. Find a bottom spot and leave it, because when you go into the crafting menu, we just press C. Anything on the ground within reachable distance can be used in the crafting system. So let's make a stone tool, or a few. We just use 2 rocks. I figure the idea is you just bash them together. And we're going to need something else to make it easier to cut down some of these trees. In the meantime, I'm going to need to use one of these stone tools first. Now there's a way to test your vitals. You press F to pull up your watch. The BP brand watch, it tells you the current time, how many days you're alive, and if you press on the mouse button, it shows your health, your hunger, your water, and your fatigue. Fatigue you don't need to worry about too much, and health, unless we actually come across, I don't know, a snake, we're not going to need to worry about that too much. Except for the sharks out in the ocean. They're an entirely different thing, and we'll get to them when we get to them. But right now, I don't need to cut down this ficus, actually. If I cut it down, I'll get a stick, but I guess we can use one right now. This is a good way to show you stone tools. They are way at the bottom of the useful tools. It's going to take me a long time to chop it down. There we go. Since it was a taller ficus, I got 2 sticks, which is nice. But this yucca plant, when I take that out, it's going to drop fibrous leaves, which I use to make rope, which is used in a lot of crafting. You want lots of those ropes. Lashing, as they call it. Now that I've got a lashing, I can make a better tool. Let's make a crude axe. That's going to make chopping down these trees and these yucca much easier. We also see young palm trees. Those also give us fibrous leaves, but only one at a time. Luckily, the yucca and the young palm trees do regrow. The ficus do not, nor do these palm trees around here. But since this is a map that I have previously played on, I know where some of the surrounding islands are, like some of the things we can find on them. And I know that we'll be able to build a raft and get to them easier long before we're in any real danger of running out of items. So, no real worries there. But yeah, it's a pretty nice looking game. I have the settings relatively low so that my computer doesn't slow down. But I've got it running at roughly 60 FPS. There is some frame rate drop, but not enough that it's a problem. You'll notice it's a very quiet game, but there are points where music will actually pop up. That's a sign that a shark knows where you are, which is kind of strange, because the music pops up most often when you're on dry land. There's no way it should know where you are. So we'll get a couple more lashing out here. We can also make cloth, but in order to do that, we need to make a loom, which requires more lashing. But the game also wants us to make a refined knife. There's only a few objects right at the start. Refined knives, for the most part, you can use them the same way as the axe, except we can also use it to skin fish and crabs. We also have... You're never going to run out of coconuts. Coconuts are fine. They are actually multitaskers, too, which is kind of cool. Hold tab, jump, and we can climb trees. Don't think there's a coconut up here, but it's a good way to show it off. You're not really at risk of falling on here. But look at that beefy arm. Only if you press jump will you fall. But you can take a slight distance without hurting yourself. There's a coconut. I wanted that. Now, this palm tree is extremely tall, but there are some smaller ones. I'm not going to cut down the small ones, because coconuts do regrow, and I need those. But these tall ones, they have better currency for chopping into lumber. I can probably catch it in midair. No, I can't. It's not going to let me jump when I'm so close to the tree. Still have inventory space. These ficuses, there's no reason to keep them alive. If they don't regrow, they're of no use to me otherwise. Now do keep in mind, I was going somewhere when I was describing the stone tools. Your built tools have durability. The stone tools do not, so they are somewhat useful in that sense. But they take so long to chop down anything that the only reason to hang on to them is so that you can quickly craft a new tool. And be careful about the physics engine. It is perfectly likely that one of these palm trees, when I chop it down, it's going to fly into the air and land in the ocean. In fact, I think it's this one. Let's test that theory. It's going to take me 10 to chop it down with a crude axe. 10 hacks. But since it's in a rock, its geometry is a little funky. There it goes. Let's see if it lands in the same place. Goodbye. I think it floats. I could be wrong. Well, the point being, we're not going to see that tree again. Unless we build a raft, go to another island, and come back. Then for some reason, I think the tree's going to shoot out of the ocean, and then I can drag it back into dry land. This is stranded deep, folks. Also, I might have seen back there. My inventory's full, so I'll just have to drag this over here. But we've got crab buddies on this island. Palm trees can fly. Now you see, I'm trying to select a crafting item, but since I'm holding a tool, it's not going to let me. So I have to drop the tool and then get rid of all of this crap. I don't know why the game does that. They're constantly updating and improving the game. The UI, in particular, looks a lot nicer and sort of less distracting than it was, at least when Sips played it. And yet, the basic physics, your character model, things like that, they haven't really touched. So there's a slight problem in what they're focusing on, their priorities. Oh yeah, and we can sharpen a stick and go fishing. It's the primary way of hunting, is to craft a spear. I don't really know the difference between the fishing spear and the crude spear. A fishing spear might be easier to grab things, but when we craft a crude spear and we get some other crafting materials, we can make a refined spear, which is a lot nicer. And the crude spear can't kill things like boars, or if anything, the time I tried to kill a boar with the fishing spear, it broke. But yep. Just stab it and it's out, and then you hold down the mouse button to grab it off of the spear, otherwise it's just going to hang on there. Hang on, I don't need to waste this. Some things you do have to actually go in your inventory and then drop it on the ground. This way I can skin the crab. That looked a lot like the animation in Far Cry. It's a newer edition. I know that. We do need kindling. This is an edition I don't like, the kindling. In earlier builds of the game, you just had a lighter in your inventory, which would automatically ignite your campfire. Let's see. Flat ground, flat ground. That'll do. But here we have to use kindling, which is a much slower process. You spin the stick. It's that kind of thing. We'll get with the coconuts in a bit. But look at this bullshit. You need to do that 8 times. Luckily, cooking on the campfire, it's bullshit, but in a way that's beneficial to you. I can take this small meat, I need to drop it, but then I can get caught in everything. Then I can grab it and actually hang it on top of the campfire. And it's going to stay there, and it will cook. If you get lucky, you can actually put 2 bits of meat on there. But they have a tendency to just sort of slide off of this orb that the campfire encompasses. Actually, tell you what we're going to do with the coconuts. This is what I did in my game as well. The game that we're currently saving over, so it doesn't matter. But I took... Where's my life raft? I took the life raft, here it is. And I just stuffed all my coconuts in there. This way, they're where I know where they are. And they don't go anywhere. They can't roll away. Does get caught on stuff. Let's get rid of some of this crap. More damn ficuses. Young palm trees are probably going to be a problem once I start building things too. Like building structures. Because they like to hide under the platforms. If you got something and you're grabbing it, I don't know what is hanging on, but if you press the use button, you can also throw things. Potentially useful, especially once we build a proper raft. Let me check my vitals. I'm getting a little bit thirsty, so I'm going to take my axe and I'm going to hack at one of the coconuts. That makes it a drinkable coconut. That gives me just 1 serving of liquid, but then I could just drop the drinkable coconut, and then that leaves it there so that I can chop it, which will give me 2 coconut halves, which I can then eat. And coconuts don't seem to go bad, so you can just leave them there, and we'll be golden. But like that, we're right in tip-top shape. Now I need a... This one's mine. We're going to make a shelter, but in order to do that, I need to chop down the very top of the palm tree to get some palm fronds. Oh, we will live and die by the coconut. I like that I can grab and drag this entire palm tree. Get it nearer, so that I know where the logs are. I only really need the fronds. But each of these logs, you need to hack just to separate them, and then hack them 10 more times in order to actually get the sticks out of them. I don't think you can craft anything with the logs themselves, but if you feel like you're low on space, just put the logs somewhere, and then you can chop them up for sticks later. I don't know why there's a distinction. You have to chop every little thing into different bits. But there, we got some palm fronds. And I feel like some of them ran away. Which is very likely. The physics engine is a little bit fucked. It's just a matter of figuring out where they went. Which is hard to do at night. But we should be okay. I'm going to attempt to build a shelter. There we go, not too bad. I want to keep the shelter sort of away from the campfire because there are things I can build to put around the campfire, including a spit and a water evaporation machine of some sort. It's what I use the buckets for. I put salt water into one bucket, that evaporates onto a tarp, wherever the tarp is, right over there, which then drips down into another bucket, and that's how I get fresh water. Water distillation machine, that's the proper word. I know some words. Now, if you notice, some of these items, you can hold 4 of them in one stack. Fibrous leaves you can hold up to 8, which is sort of nice if you're hoarding them. But I just need to make more lashing, so I'm not going to hoard them too much. But you need a shelter on almost every island if you want to really be safe, especially if you're worried about your game crashing. Because when you interact with the shelter, one, you can sleep, which is nice, but you also need it to save. There's no other way to save the game. Another kind of like this. At night, bats fly around, and like in real life, they're not a danger, game developers. Bats almost never bother anyone. And if you can also kill them, but they don't give you anything. On my last island, I killed... Like, sometimes they'll rest on the palm trees, which is kind of cute. But I accidentally killed one. I think that's a bat right there, yeah. And their body just hang limply on the ground. So I had a bat, and I just left it in my house. Because I had no other idea what to do. Now, number one, you'll notice you get thirsty very quickly. Well, it's a good thing I saved.